Hello, this is Daniel from Hallbeamdesign. For this video I'm quite excited. About 2 months ago it all started when a customer told me that she wanted a simple wall-hung sideboard for her bedroom. Then I had a strange idea to make a leopard pattern on the doors. This project turned out much cooler than I expected. In this video I will shape cheap pine lumber into something my customer didn't ask for in the first place. All with the aim of creating a cool and dominant piece of furniture. You will also learn which tools you absolutely should not buy and which one I think are good. For this project I used glued pine, which is an inexpensive material. I don't like to use plywood or MDF for my projects, as I prefer real wood. The quick thinking European can see immediately why this was not a good purchase. The saw I use is a Skill with a 254mm saw blade. It has plenty of power and cuts straight enough for my current projects. The measuring stick you see here does not have enough millimeter marks. In 1 centimeter there are 10 millimeters, and this one you can see that there are only 5 markings, which is not good enough when making furniture. I bought this in store for this project as I needed something completely straight. Then I will cut down some planks from 20 centimeters to 18.2 centimeters. At the moment I don't have a table saw, which would have been optimal for this project. Currently I mostly make projects that do not require a table saw. If you're careful enough you can do it with a stop and a jigsaw. The poor measuring stick is at least straight, but at the same time you can see that it is possible to saw a straight line with the help of stops. Then I start to saw out the doors and the back of the sideboard. To cut out the doors I use my circular saw. This works great as long as you keep a steady hand, and if you're an experienced user. I start laying out the parts I sawed out to start visualizing what I've done. After that I prepare the parts for assembly with wooden dowels. I put a line about 8mm in, where I can then drill a hole for a wooden dowel. Optimal would have been to use a domino machine or other types of joining techniques, but right now I still have lots of wooden dowels from a previous project. In the hole I put small pieces of metal with a spike, which I then use to push the other piece against. The metal tips make markings for where I should drill on the trim board to get a perfect fit. This Ryobi drill is also a tool that I will replace in the future. I am in the middle of a process where I will upgrade a number of tools to some of better quality. Then I put in wooden dowels to test the fit before gluing together. Perfect result. The wooden dowel does not really add any strength to the various joints. The dowel only makes the parts straight when gluing. The glue I use is a very durable polyurethane glue, which is stronger than the wooden dowel itself. This wooden dowel jig has saved me a lot of time and at a very low cost. I recommend those of you that are doing many projects at home and don't have the money to spend on a domino machine to buy a kit like this. If you can't find it at your local hardware store, I have linked to a similar kit on Amazon in the description in this video. The glue I use is a Cascol polyurethane 1-component solvent-free glue, which hardens under influence of moisture in the air and from the materials being glued together. Used for gluing wood, wood to metal, stone, concrete or other plastic materials. I use this glue for several other projects, but while this video is being edited I have ordered Titebond glue, where I will test and see if that glue suits my projects better, as I often stay in my creations. The wrong type of glue can cause poor etching. I put the sideboard parts together one last time to make sure everything fits as it should. Then I lay out where the shelves and the middle section should be, to see that it fits. As you can see it's a perfect fit on the shelves, even though I didn't saw them on a table saw. In order for the shelves to fit perfectly, I measure all the distances between the edges so that it's the same everywhere. When I have found the right distance, I draw lines so that I can easily then start drilling holes for the wooden dowels that will hold the shelves. Then I take out the shelves and drill holes for the wooden dowels somewhere inside the lines I just marked. The person who buys this sideboard from me is a former customer who I know has the high demands on what she wants. I want to deliver a good and durable, unique product that the customer will be able to have for a very long time. The goal is for the product to be able to be inherited for the next generation. As you can see, I use the same metal plug to be able to mark where to drill the holes on the other pieces. If you want to do the same thing, you can really just use a normal nail or something similar that you put in the hole. I prefer these as they are made for the purpose. Making the sideboard in this way takes time, but it will be much better than just using wood glue alone. It will be easy to put the shelves straight as I only use the lines when I press down the piece on the metal plugs. As I get closer to the end of assembling the shelves, I realize that I want to bevel the edges a little to make the sideboard more timeless. This router is a Bosch DIY 1400 Ace, which cost about $150 to buy. I got this as a gift from a friend. Although I didn't buy it myself, I'm very happy with it. Buy yourself a router, you deserve it. I currently prefer to round the edges instead of doing a 45-degree profile on my projects. Before I start to carve out the pattern on the doors, I will also round the front of the doors with the router. Here we also see that I need to put the leg up on this work table to make it stable. This work table was very cheap. I should have spent more money on something better and stronger. Then I mark out where the supports for the doors should be. It is important to me that they are as large as possible in order to be as robust as possible. Therefore, I am careful and measure and mark out properly so that the doors will be able to close when these are in place. These supports are then glued in place with the same glue I use for the wooden dowels, and they are there to make the doors retain their shape. I make these supports myself with leftover pieces of the material I bought for the sideboard. These are sawn and rounded exactly the same as the other parts of the cabinet. I spread the glue with a bottle. For the next video I will use Titebond's own glue brush in order to create a more even glue up. The most important thing is to press the piece to be glued properly and create a good bond, which I do in this case with some weights for a barbell. It is also important, if you want a good result, to double check your gluing so that the pieces do not move when you put the weights on. Instead of having to spend a lot of time on it afterwards, I spend a little time on it now. 16 hours later is finally time to create the front of the sideboard doors. I start by marking out some lines for me to follow as I power carve out the pattern with the angle grinder. Here you get a close-up of the tool I will use. I'm very satisfied with this tool. I had very high expectations and was really looking forward to making this pattern with an angle grinder. It is sometimes scary for myself to make things for others because at any point in the process you can fail. And if I fail, I have to redo this whole cabinet door. Once I started to carve out the pattern, I realized that this is going to be a lot of fun, and the adrenaline was gone. Important for me in this case is not to make the holes too deep, as the door is only 18mm thick. To see what other things you can build with an angle grinder, I recommend that you watch my first video, where I make a smoking pipe using very simple tools and, among other things, an angle grinder. The carving creates a lot of sawdust and makes a lot of noise. After I carve the doors, I quickly sand down the doors with a sanding sponge. On the back I sand around the supports mainly to remove any glue residue that may affect the staining of the wood. Then I round the edges of the main part of the sideboard and keep the style that the customer wants. Then I start sanding the sideboard with my sander. I start with 80 grit sandpaper and move up to 120 and last 180 grit sandpaper. Spend money on proper sandpaper too. This will save you hours of work. Inside the sideboard I continue with the sanding sponge. I currently don't have any good power tools for sanding the edges of my projects. Then I wipe the sideboard with water to remove all dust, as well as to raise the wooden fibers again. After the wooden fibers are raised by the water, they can be sanded again to create a perfectly smooth surface. Here we also get to see the channel's first blooper. If there's one thing I've learned from watching other YouTubers, it's always to keep filming. Then I sand the sidebar one last time with 180 grit sandpaper, and begins to wipe it down with water one last time to remove all the dust from the sanding. The stain I use for this sideboard is the same as I used for my first YouTube video. I like the color of this stain, and the customer previously received another piece of furniture made in the exact same stain. This time I use a brush instead of a cloth to apply this stain. This is a tip I got from a craftsman. The reason is that the cloth absorbs so much stain that you consume an unnecessary amount when staining. Instead you use a brush to spread it out and then wipe it off with a good cloth. As you can see, this stain is very easy to apply, as all you have to do is to wipe off the excess. Then I continue to stain the entire sideboard using a brush and a cloth. Here you can see two other projects I made with the same stain. Staining is a rather slow process. In the future I will test whether it's worth staining before assembly or after. Finally I get to the moment I've been waiting for. I've never done this pattern before, so I had no idea how the pattern would look after staining. My first thought is that this was a complete failure, but the further I got with the staining I realized that the pattern is going to be great. And when it's time to remove the excess to see how it will really look, I was very pleased. The cloth left over after I wiped off the excess can spontaneously combust if I left them alone. To prevent this I soak them and hand them in for recycling. 6 hours later, when the stain has dried, I start painting the sideboard with a simple clear coat. If you like the pattern I created, please subscribe to my channel. I'm currently spending a lot of time building furniture and making videos, and I hope in the future that I can start to earn a little bit from this so I can make more and interesting builds. Thank you for watching this video. A long time ago I bought a set of photo lights from my girlfriend, who is a very good photographer. At the time I had no idea that I would start making videos. The set cost about $100 and makes a big difference for the camera I use. Good light gives sharper pictures. You immediately see the difference in how sharp this becomes with good lighting. The sideboard doors will be hung on the sideboard with hinges that have a soft close function. From the beginning, when I talked to the customer, it would have been standard simple hinges, but I chose these instead because I know the person likes well-made things. I have decided in advance where the hinges will sit, and I will mark where to drill the hole for the body hinge to fit. The instruction sheet for the hinges show exactly how they should be mounted. Here we see that the edge of the body should sit about 3 to 6 mm in, and the body has a diameter of 35 mm. I measure out and draw a line where the end of the hole for the body should be. As long as I drill the hole in the middle and the edge of the hole is on the vertical line, it will be perfect. The drill I use is a Forstner drill, which has the same diameter as the body of the hinge. When drilling this hole, I'm worried about drilling through the hatch, as the mill pattern is about 1 to 4 mm deep in places, and this hole must be at least 10 mm deep for the body to lie flush with the door. This gives me a 3 to 7 mm margin when drilling the hole. The screws are 16 mm long, and they will lie on top of the surface and hold the hinge, otherwise they would have probably have gone through the cabinet door. Like this video if you want me to replace the screwdriver with a DeWalt. To make the hinges straight I use a simple angle iron, then I mark out where to screw in the screws on both sides. These 4 hinges cost me about $35. And here you can see why I liked these hinges. Then I look for the next marking to continue drilling the next hole for the next hinge. This is a fairly simple process as long as you understand the instruction sheet for the hinges that you purchased for your projects. Starting to see this project come to completion gives me peace. When I started this in 2019, I had no idea I would have as much fun as I have now. At the moment this is still a hobby for me and I will continue to create videos when I make things for you. My goal right now is to get enough viewing hours and subscribers that I can use this as a small passive income. For the income I will buy materials to make things for you to see. Tip: buy good hinges, you deserve it. Then it's time to attach the part of the hinges that will sit in the sideboard part. I start by taking out the instruction sheet again to see how it should look. This shows me that the screws for the body should be 32mm apart and 37mm in from the edge of the sideboard. I mark out the middle, then I mark out the distance from the middle out to the screws, 16mm from the middle. Then I use an angle iron to get the distance from the marking where the screw should be down to the distance they should sit at 37mm and mark out with a screw where I should drill. And you can see that I have taped the drill to see how deep I need to drill. Notice how sharp the video is right now when I use the good lighting compared to when I'm standing outside. The screwing of the first part goes without any problems. Then I continue with all the other parts. I'm erasing my markings with a regular pencil eraser. Here you can see how well the camera works with its autofocus. If I had a worse camera I would have to do this manually. In addition to the camera, for this video I bought a new microphone, where in my previous video I used my iPhone to do the voiceover, to try to give you and me a more pleasant experience. The customer wanted this sideboard to be wall hung. In order for this to be robust, I bought some strong angle irons to attach the screw to. Buy yourself a good camera, you deserve it. Then it was 11 PM and in front of me I had an assembled sideboard. I sent the video to the customer directly, which is on my Instagram, and I tried closing the doors to check that the hinges were working properly. And they worked perfectly, so I had to try this again. And again. And again, and again, and again, until I was sure I was completely satisfied with the way they worked. I like this sideboard so much that I can really see myself doing more of these in the future. This might be my sideboard phase. I will definitely be back to create more videos on this topic. To finish, I want to thank you who watched the whole video. Take the opportunity to comment and watch my second video where I show how to make things again with simple DIY tools. You will be tempted to buy an angle grinder after it. There will be a link at the end of this video and I will reply to all your comments. Bye.